Heading back to the agenda, Parks and Rec, community and education spaces. Rich, do you want to walk us through just the new things from the town hall section?
Yeah, did you put it up on the?
I can, yep, I'm pulling it up right now. Okay, so we reviewed this section in 3 separate parts, and I have since combined them into the one chapter as we had outlined. So town hall is actually the last section, so I'm just scrolling all the way down. Here we go.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't make too many changes since the 2009 POCD. The only thing I think I updated basically was the use of spaces in the town hall. They're now digitizing documents to reduce paper and create more space. I talked a little bit about the new police station, if that might potentially result in movement of offices for the town hall, but I don't think they're discussing. I think they're discussing more of the community center offices, but I threw that in. 2009 POCD, they talked about not being fully handicap accessible. Gary, did they make any updates since then? I haven't, I'm not aware of anything.
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah. So, you know, they have the ramps, but I guess it's not, you know, fully handicap accessible for some others. Basically, the recommendations were pretty much the same from the 2009 POCD. As everybody knows, they still have issues with the lighting in the parking area of the town hall. And I discussed the not being fully handicap accessible. Gary, is there anything else you can add from the town hall?
I mean, I guess the question is whether the lighting is, I mean, we've installed LED lighting and security around the building. So in terms of town hall, I mean, we have made some upgrades. So I think the lighting has been addressed, and
Okay.
That also goes hand in hand with the
So
installation.
we can take that out, I guess.
Yeah, I would cut that out.
Okay.
Trying to do that. Oh, now I got to scroll again. Sorry, guys. My apologies for the delay. Going to delete that now.
I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add. I mean, there's not much meat to that subsection, but if anybody has any suggestions, I'll adjust or add, whatever.
Oh, you know what I was wondering about? And I don't know if it falls in Parks and Rec, but could be here. I don't think it was in Parks and Rec. The town hall property is very nice, but is generally, the outdoor portion is generally only used once a year for the art show. Should we explore the expanded use of the property?
Sure.
Sure. We actually used it last Friday for a meeting. So down in the atrium over there for the Historical Society. So.
Oh, good.
Some people are using like the back benches, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good idea.
All right. Do you want to, should I make a note, and Rich, you can draft something to that end?
Okay.
Gary, you're our resident expert here. How's the Wi-Fi
How's the Wi-Fi?
in the town hall building?
So far, so good. I don't know. I mean, it works pretty well.
Okay.
Occasionally you'll have some interference. Really, the IT infrastructure could be stronger. So not so much the Wi-Fi, but I just think we have a fiber optic network, but due to security issues, we basically have a big pipe, but we clamp down on it because we haven't been able to figure out the security piece well enough so that we can actually use the fiber optic network the way it was meant to be, where you have super fast speeds and things like that. So we're still dealing with some of those issues. I don't know if that helps.
Anything that you think we should put in here on that? Or not part of the scope of the plan?
Maybe put a little sentence about the IT infrastructure. I know we mentioned it in emergency services.
Hang on a second, my computer just. Well, I mean, my computer's pretty slow right now.
Does that adequately capture what you were saying, Kirk?
I'm actually trying to get back to the Zoom meeting. I can't see any of you guys right now.
It says, continue to strengthen IT infrastructure to ensure security and reliability for the many essential functions housed in Town Hall.
I would agree with
And well,
that.
I would even go so far as to say town-wide, but
Okay.
I mean, it is the town hall section of the POCD, so.
Well, if I say offices, that applies to the ones in the community center too. Okay.
I think that's fine.
Okay. Good to go. I'm going to stop share, check back in with the agenda. Then the next one after the community spaces is water and wastewater management, which I can pull up.
A question. Do we have a section just on waste management, or where is that?
Yes, I drafted it today. It didn't make the agenda because it did not make our stakeholder kickoff documents, but it's in the table of contents. Somewhere
cool.
between when we determined the sections and when we assigned the sections, we lost it. So I noticed that a week or two ago, and I wrote it.
All right. Do you just throw some of the Wesleyan stuff in there too?
I did.
Okay, awesome. Great.
We haven't reviewed it yet, but it's ready to review tonight. Okay, this is water and wastewater management. Brad's helping me do some of this, and we do have the maps. But we're gonna have capacity info for sewer and number of customers served. Okay, so I think to be respectful to everyone's time, I can just summarize the description, and I will let you know also that Brad Cargill reviewed this today, made a few edits which have been implemented in terms of wording, and the Water and Sewer Commission is planning to review this section at their 7/28 meeting.
Cool.
So basically, this just walks through where we get our water, when the demand is high, how we have the interconnect with the City of New London and where their water comes from, which reservoir. So we get a combination of surface and groundwater. The surface water comes from our interconnection with the City of New London. It goes through how we process the water at the various wells for water quality, various filtration and disinfection measures. And then we have a bunch of maps. So this is where our water comes from.
So
Thank you for putting these in.
yeah,
Gary.
well, I put them in so we have resources to use and maybe help. I'm not sure how Brad feels about, was he okay with that?
I told him that I had them because I thought they came from him to you.
I know, and they're public documents. I guess it's okay. I'm
He'll
just
see them tomorrow.
the 9/11 security issues with here's where our wells are located.
Okay.
That's my concern with these maps, but short of that, you know, anybody, the document is publicly available, I guess is what I'm saying. We just don't make it easy.
Well, they are, you're right. He might want the map out.
So,
They are, we do have to note where they come from in the annual water quality report, but not this exactly. So you're right. This one might go.
well, we could modify the map, show our stratified drift aquifers maybe, and
Yeah.
somewhere
And
here, like put big circles, right?
yeah. Well, and
The endangered species list or the National Diversity Database has got, you know, big circles and nobody knows exactly where that plant. Yeah.
and we might even be able to just remove the map because we say where they are, what aquifers they're from. But this we do want, I think.
Yes.
Water customers. And there's 3 sewer maps that all have a little bit more information than the rest. So I thought we needed all 3. It does not hurt to include, I don't think, sewer service and sewer sheds.
Yeah, I'm going to show these to Brad, what we have, and just ask him if there's like did the Water and Sewer Commission adopt an official map?
Okay.
I don't know that there's, you know, that boundary is a GIS boundary that's in my software. I'm just using it because it's there.
Yeah.
So obviously, you know, it's a contentious issue. So we want to make sure we have the right boundary. So I'll just verify that with them tomorrow.
Yeah, and I am sure that on 7/29 we will get very specific thoughts on that after they've met and looked at this. Oh, this isn't twice. That's an accident.
He said they were meeting on the 27th,
They're meeting on the 28th.
28th. Okay.
He's going to look at it again tomorrow, and then they'll look at it on the 28th.
I did advise them that the Board of Selectmen, when they receive the document from planning, that, you know, they'll have 60 days to review it and hold their own public hearing. So there'll be time for Water and Sewer if they wanted to continue to comment. And then the Planning Commission, I told them, will have their own public because you could comment again. So he was happy that Water and Sewer will be able to do that.
Yeah, he was pretty comfortable with it as is, so hopefully it's smooth.
Okay.
So the recommendations, these aren't the recommendations. This is still the description area, but it goes into detail about why we're recommending things in the following areas: water quality, water supply, emerging contaminants. This is specifically related to PFAS. Sewage capacity, energy efficiency, and greenhouse gas emissions, which is pretty important for water and wastewater. They're high energy users. And investment in infrastructure resiliency, particularly in our coastal areas, but system-wide.
That might be the only place we mentioned the pandemic.
I mentioned it in residential development.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, and I think it's in agriculture too.
It's in emergency services, I think, too.
I didn't see it in there then. All right. It might be in there. I've read a lot of things today, so.
Okay. So the recommendations are pretty straightforward. Protect East Lyme's water quality through strong support of East Lyme's open space plan, which will detail out why that's important to water quality in that section. Make efforts to reduce road salt application to lower sodium levels in the water supply. And then it goes through some potential measures. So A lot of the road salt problem is actually in parking lots. Commercial business owners are really incentivized to put down a lot of salt because they're subject to a wide variety of slip and fall lawsuits. So Brad was talking about this program in New Hampshire, where New Hampshire, in an effort to reduce salt intrusion into their water supply, has allowed businesses to get a certification in parking lot salt management, and it also reduces their liability to slip and fall incidents. So that's important, because just saying put down less salt is hard to enforce, because the commercial business really has an incentive to oversalt to avoid litigation.
Is this a state statute in New Hampshire?
Yes.
Huh.
Salt management plans for parking lots as part of applications. This was, and Norm, I'd like to get you this deck for zoning commission, because Brad and I had a presentation on, like, they did a whole study on I think it was in Colchester, like a new big box store, that they required the salt management plan as part of the construction, and they tracked the salt runoff for X number of years, and they could tell when the business stopped doing the management plan, and they were able to approach them and say, you know, you stopped doing your salt management plan, and they had switched contractors, and it was just an education issue, and they were able to get back on plan. But it really impacted the water quality. They saw improvement. The thing here on this salt stuff is that it's really hard to get the salt out of the water once it's in. It's super expensive. So the best mitigation measure is to stop it from getting in there in the first place. So engage in public education for property owners, advocate for responsible road salt application from the state of Connecticut on state roads, and employ best practices in salt application on town roads through partnership with East Lyme Public Works. This was the recommendation we were just talking about in commercial development. A groundwater protection plan is referenced above in the description, but it's a bit different than regulations for an aquifer protection zone. It's a little bit more holistic. Adopt inland wetland application, I think that means regulations. In critical watershed areas, such as the Patagonia River and Bride Brook, which is the water, specifically our drinking water supply. Develop and strengthen East Lyme stormwater management plan to reduce impacts of seepage and runoff in critical water supply areas. This is another one that's touched on earlier, and the reason that it's developed, strengthened is because we already have it in the subdivision, but don't have it in zoning.
On B, Michelle, I'm wondering if you should include the 4 Mile River watershed. Because before you're going to explore new sources. So if we're exploring,
right,
we don't want to, you know, we can protect it ahead of time. Although the majority of that is all Stones Ranch and Atlantic State Forest. So
we got good filtration and possible firefighting foam contamination. And then another water protection area is trees as part of this. There is the need to explore new sources of water supply from a resiliency perspective. So that's addressed here, including but not limited to the 4 Mile River aquifer. Number 5 is, so the state is expected to it's imminent that PFAS regulations will be coming out, but they are not out yet. And so this sets us up for recommending that we comply with them and find out where the source of any I don't even know if we have PFAS contamination because I don't believe they've tested yet, but it would be to test, to maintain acceptable levels if a health advisory level is set, and find out where it's coming from to mitigate at the source. But this would be another reason to explore new sources of water supply in case we discover that we have contamination at one of our wells for this emerging contaminant. Number 6 is pretty well done, except we've got a Marks and Marca question here, but this is working on reducing future demands on our limited sewage capacity. So this goes through a few ways to do that. So septic system ordinances in critical environmental areas would possibly reduce the need to run sewer to those areas. We could explore increased capacity at the New London wastewater treatment facility, or we could explore regulations for on-site community systems or package plants. That'd be like when a neighborhood kind of has their own like mini sewer.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, I guess in terms of I mean, I can certainly ask attorneys Marker, but my opinion is it's a recommendation. So you could still make it.
Yeah. I think yes. Yeah.
I mean, that's just, I mean, I know I've thought about, residential development and saying, one way to manage our capacity over New London is to, eliminate and, providing it to it. So I'm in favor of it as a way to manage our growth in terms of capacity, because unless we open up the door and say, okay, if you want the capacity developers, you pay for it. That's
Yeah.
it, and if it requires, I mean, I don't know how that works. If you're the last guy through the door and say, oh, well, now we got to upgrade the plant, so you got to pay for it. I don't know how that works, but my thought was that maybe that's what we have to do. Sir, maybe, I'm wondering if that should be like, or should we say something? Maybe I'll talk to Brad about continued collaboration with the New London wastewater. And I'm thinking there should be a recommendation in there that they collaborate, the Water and Sewer Commission and New London, as well as the region, because it's a regional. Because certainly if we can increase our capacity in New London, right, that only behooves us because we can connect more houses to it.
Yeah. We talk about that up in the upfront, and the contract is due to be renegotiated this year. So it's in the description.
Just a comment on 6D. Explore the development of regulations to install on-site community systems or package plants. Last I knew, and I've been told many times by developers, these community systems take about 2 years to get approved by the DEEP. And developers just avoid it because by the time they get the permit, a recession hits or something. It's just, and there hasn't been a great deal of large developments. So the DEEP is probably still slow, and that 6D is probably just a waste of ink because of it's just not feasible.
Yeah, and it's not really a preferred method for water and sewer either. They're not particularly enthusiastic about it, but when we spoke to Brad, he had suggested that we still include it because we're kind of getting to critical capacity here where we are running out of capacity. If we don't successfully negotiate for more, we are in a new situation, and to get more, we may have to pay for very costly infrastructure investments at the treatment facility. So while this is not our best option, it might be a necessary one, was the tone of the conversation. Am I interpreting that correctly, Gary? Is that how you remember it as well?
Yeah, I think essentially what Brad was saying is that as our capacity in New London starts to diminish, we're going to need another alternative.
Good way to stop development.
Yeah.
So I think if that's the case, I would leave it in there in the event that we run out of capacity. I don't know that we will in the next 10 years, but I guess we could.
Are we okay with the rest of number 6 then, or 6 as is? We'll just double check on how about we check with Marka on the best way to word this, but I think we're all in support of the actual recommendation. But are we good with number 6? Yeah, okay. 7 is about decrease greenhouse gas emissions and improve energy efficiency through an energy audit of our water and sewer infrastructure. There's been a lot of developments in, pump stations and load on diesel generators that could improve efficiency. Continuing the meter replacement program so that meters will be read remotely instead of someone having to drive out biannually or quarterly to the customer's homes to read the meter. Encouraging the installation of solar panels on appropriate pump stations or other buildings, and taking advantage of any programs or partnerships whereby clean energy can be used to power facilities. There was some discussion with Eversource about a potential fuel cell partnership that didn't go anywhere, but there are options like that that may come up in the future that we'd want to take advantage of. Last one here is to prioritize investments in East Lyme's most vulnerable infrastructure to protect critical services in the event of increased flooding and or strong storms. And there are best practices in the EPA's flood resistance guidelines that we can enact. This also references Circa's I think we need to reword this, but the Connecticut Institute for Resilience and Climate Adaptation has a specific document for water and wastewater infrastructure in Connecticut's coastal communities. So I need to better cite that here, but it would be enacting the recommendations from that. And I should also put the Stantec ones in there too. So I'll add that. Those Stantec ones come up in coastal resources as well under resiliency, but they call out specific pump stations by name. Are we comfortable with this section? Yes.
Yes.
All right, great. Hopping back to the agenda. Transportation is next.
All right. Gary, do you want to do this, or do you want me to?
Sure,
I know we were on number 8 when we left off last time. I can talk through it too if you don't want to, or whatever's easier.
Well, maybe I'll just start and I'll just tell you what I've changed.
That sounds great.
All right. So most of this was all the same right at the beginning. Come on. Rich made a comment here.
I threw my 2 cents in there.
This is a good question from Rich, whether or not we should continue to recommend a rail stop, possibly.
I think we said that it wasn't ever going to be a feasible.
It's a likelihood. I don't know if you want to put it in as a ideal goal or just want to put in stuff that, have some sense of realism, I guess. I guess that's the reason you didn't want to put it in, because it wasn't realistically going to happen in the next 10 years. So.
Right.
But I don't know if the priority is to put in stuff you think might be an ideal goal or not.
Well, I mean, it was one. It came out of the previous POCD.
Right.
We could put it back in.
If you want to keep it,
It is.
Yeah, it depends on the consensus of the group. It's fine. Fine either way.
It goes both ways. Some people want it, some people don't.
Right.
I think
it would improve property values. I think that's the having a local stop it.
I think put it in as something that the town should explore more. I mean,
Right.
like, you could frame it like that, like,
Right.
not one way or the other, but consider the exploration of this, because it is something that's apparently been kind of on the radar for a while.
Considering how much parking is required to make it worth Amtrak to do it,
Mm-hmm.
the only place is Rocky Neck. And right now, they're turning cars away, even without COVID. They're parking at
you never do it.
the Lyme Tavern, the Lee House. The people are walking a mile to get there. I can't see it ever happening in town.
Yeah, I don't side either way. I mean, I could throw the word rail in there. I mean, but we don't really use it as a mode of transportation for moving people, although it is used for goods and services, because we do have the lumber yard that we see. So, I mean, I just put the word rail in. Is anybody opposed to that? Or?
I think that's fine. It covers us should the opportunity become available. No, but without putting too much effort into it, because I think we've pretty much been expressly told by Amtrak in the last 10 years that the opportunity is unlikely to be available due to the stopping distance in the bridge and the parking.
Right. I think some of the neighbors weren't too happy with the possibility there.
Moving on, we tried to insert some maps here. So I can redo the map. I tried to darken up. The dark pink here are the proposed, so maybe we got to do some different color schemes. The light pink are existing sidewalks. The green is trails, and then this neon green obviously is the boardwalk. And at the resolution in which it printed, it's hard to read, but that was existing roads and sidewalks.
I think there's a typo there, I think, right? Existing.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll replace the map anyway. Just add, but I followed it with a sidewalk and walkability plan, because this is a zoomed in map overlaid on top of the aerial. I think that's a little easier to read. Again, at the resolution, it's still tough. And there's another formatting thing. Got to remove this above that image. Here's another heat map of traffic accidents. Now I added this, Kirk. This was done. This is old data because it was done in 2012. And then that's followed by the map that you had inserted. I'm not sure where you have to source this one.
Yeah, that's the Yukon crash database from 2010 to 2020. I think I have the link in the references. But we can plotting tool that they have up on their website is pretty good. You can do a lot of different stuff to it.
My question is, do we want to add the fatality map?
I have it. I don't know if we want to add it or not. The one place that well, I shouldn't say, it makes it clear that one stretch of road by Gorton Pond has had some fatalities there on it. I don't know the details about what exactly happened, but if we're looking for a way to bolster our case to get a better road width or get the state to do some work there, maybe it might be appropriate to put that map, because it does show that that area. And of course, we all know I-95 has issues. There's some spots on the I-95 map that that are apparent for that heat map also. But yeah, we can put it. It's up in the directory, I believe. It should be in the. If it's not there, I can drop it there really quick. If you go to 20.
Question.
No.
I don't see it
Okay.
there.
Wait, are you in the active files area?
My drive.
There's two down from the top there that said 2020 active directory, active files. Up one, up. inside of the active files under transportation. There you go. There's the fatal one.
This one here?
Yeah, that one's the fatal one.
We discussed this a bit last meeting, and I thought we landed on
Keep it
Yeah,
out.
not adding it.
Not adding.
But I see the benefits, and I see the. Up to you guys.
you know what? We can put it in there. There's going to be a bunch of reviews after us. If somebody has an objection to it, we can take it out.
Okay.
Your other heat map that was up there too looked pretty interesting too. I would have to look at both of these. Because there could be a way that we could zoom in on something, or if we're trying to make a particular point about any of our recommendations, maybe. Yeah, see, it shows on 95 that there's a bunch, or was a bunch, and
Right.
that's 161 where you see the two dots next to the pond.
Right.
I don't know.
All right. Well, it's there. If it doesn't format well, we'll take it out and go from there. It's not like it's needed. So,
Right.
Anyway, in terms of traffic, so number 2 is promote multimodal forms of transportation, and we went down to number 8. I added, it was from 6 here down. No, I'm sorry. Tell me I wrote it in the other one. No, here it is. Okay, so I added, I don't know if that's misnumbered. Isn't it? No. I know Kirk said we ended at 8, but this is renumbered. So I added 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. These came out of the Land of Unique Value study on the transportation recommendations. If anybody has any issues with them, but I can go through them. Expand parking opportunities by adhering to standards for smart growth. Encourage the shared use parking, which we had already talked about, where peak demand occurs at different times of the day. Let's see, enhance critical gateways into the town. The gateways function like front doors to the town as well as each neighborhood. Having welcome gestures at these areas help create positive, optimistic image. This is where we want to incorporate that urban art work, if you will.
Streetscaping.
Streetscape. Coordinate road standards for local residential roads with conservation subdivision initiative. Adopt connectivity standards within subdivisions to promote a greater connectivity to the town street network. Incorporate in sustainable non-point drainage solutions. This was one of those environmental ones that spoke to the natural resources section. Typo. Again, there are many ways to do this. So we reference Go See Nemo. And then this context-sensitive design approach, I added, and that comes out of the Federal Highway Administration's recommendations for improving. So I just added those, and then the rest of this is not changed. And I think I got to work on these figures. Kirk wanted to change, I guess, split these out into two. So I've got to work on that. Number 11.
I might be able to help you with that too.
So number 11 is where I inserted the stuff. I started inserting stuff from Wendy on arts and culture. Again, using the arts and culture into transportation project plan. Simple. How it can help. So I gave some background there. Number 12 didn't change. I'm trying to get a copy of the state's aerial photo with the plan. The problem is it's so large and it's a horizontal picture. So I don't know, maybe we can split it into two pictures, or what the best alternative. Would it be better to have a fold out map, like an 11 by 17 page to get that on there? But that's going to be a little bit of a snag for me, I think, is depending on how big I can resize their plan when I get it.
Can
My
we
other thought was
post it online and put a link?
if they have it out online.
Can we put it online though?
Yeah, I suppose I could take it, run it through the plotter, scan it. It may not scan well, but so I'm hoping someone from DOT will email it to me. But if I can't get that, my other thought was to just snap the photo with my phone, because it's a pretty good camera anyway. Try doing it that way. But short of that, it's just updating these photos, and the recommendations remain the same. I think Kirk at the last meeting had spoke to these. I can't recall specifically, but I remember seeing this picture.
Yeah, I think that's where we stopped, somewhere around in there.
And that was all the changes I've made.
Gary, I made a suggestion on one of our local roads on Hope Street in Pennsylvania Avenue. I think it's up a little bit, I think.
I'm going up. Was it here?
No.
Format the pictures with the text.
Maybe in the traffic section, let me see. There it is, right there. I don't know if he wanted to add that in the.
That's actually a pretty good one.
I mean, at least it's particularly at that intersection. I mean, I'd advocate for a crosswalk. There isn't one, and I don't know why.
Right.
Definitely a crosswalk, for sure.
Right.
Okay. So do you think? I mean, I'd have to talk to Joe Bagaw and just see if he thinks it might be would it be appropriate to put a light in at Hope Street? I'm thinking that would just severely clog up the traffic on 150 and 161 and 156 potentially, because you have that intersection not 1,000 feet away. I mean, it's probably just under 1,000 feet. So I'm thinking that unless the signaling on those lights were just spot on, we might create some issues there. But certainly I can talk to Joe Bagaw as well as Mike Finkelstein and see what their thoughts are on putting in a light. I think I'd only advocate for the crosswalk, but
Right.
anybody else have any thoughts on that?
I agree that while, especially in the summer, it's a bit frustrating for an intersection, I would just include the crosswalk, especially because there are alternative routes to make that left onto Pennsylvania Ave. If you want the light, you can go via Main Street instead of Hope Street.
Okay.
Or go East Patagonia and turn right onto 161 from there to access that same stretch.
Yes. That's what I tend to do when I go to the town hall, rather than deal with that left to the upper Patagonia.
It is a
It's
tight.
something a lot of people in our neighborhood were concerned with. And
My thought was maybe reducing the on-street parking in front of Grace, because that's really where I think it blocks the sight line and you can't see the oncoming traffic. But at the same time, to eliminate those parking spots, those businesses would be furious. It's just premium parking, if you will. So I don't know if it's realistic to see those go away to improve the sight line there, but maybe we could make a comment here that we investigate the sight line at that intersection.
Mm-hmm.
sounds good.
I think item C here, installing speed bumps. But I don't know if we call it traffic art, or what did Wendy refer it to?
I don't know what she referred to it as, but they called it traffic calming.
Yes, traffic calming.
Here we go.
Anyone else have any other comments or suggestions on?
Would the group be amenable to a formatting change to either number these sections out as subsections with their own recommendations, the same way we do in community spaces, or put all the descriptions up front and then the complete list of recommendations? I know we really talked about readability and ease of use in finding the recommendations. So I'd love to do either one of those two things in this section, rather than have the recommendations spread out.
Right. I'm open for either. It's fine for me. I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about the formatting of everything because I knew that everybody was going to probably do their own thing and it would get addressed.
Totally.
So yeah, for sure. I think making it consistent with the rest of the document is a good idea.
All right, maybe we'll go with subsections then, because that's kind of how it's laid out. It's just not numbered.
Okay.
Right.
So I'm happy to go in and do that as I'm getting the documents ready for Jen and combining them together.
Yeah, anything you feel like is helpful for the readability and formatting is great.
Yeah, it'll just help the matrix.
Yeah.
So you'll go in, format that, and then I can just tell Jen to go proofread it. And...
Yeah, and I'm sending her, as they're all approved by us and formatted, and then I'm sending them direct to her. So, and I'm CCing you. So.
Okay, so are we all set with transportation? Because we never talked about a few of those.
Yeah, the ones I added, we didn't really discuss in great detail. As I said, they came out of the Land of Unique Value study. That's where those came from. So they were appendix to the previous document, but I thought they were relatively applicable and relevant.
No, I agree. I was referring to, we got halfway through the last revision talking about the recommendations. So there were still a few we didn't go over here.
You're right. I think we got through state roads, but not the next section.
Okay. Do we want to go just read off the recommendations real quick for the rest of those? Does that sound like a good idea?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know who's driving here. Do you want to drive, Gary, or you want me to?
Which recommendations do you want to?
Well, we stopped when we started reviewing it last time. We stopped at what was number 8, which now is probably like 13 or 15 or something like that.
I think we got through state roads,
Okay.
right around in here.
Yeah. So we were talking about town roads, and specifically Route 161 and Route 156, and how they're would call. There's a number of these that I don't know if they were actually done. That these came out of the 2009, and it was upgrading Whistletown Road from Scott Road to the intersection of Grassy Hill Road, and realign and widen Lover's Lane from Dean Road to Route 1. I wasn't sure if those were actually done.
I think
And
I
I
don't know
think
if it was
even the
done for-
ones down below, I wasn't really sure about those either. There's like,
I don't believe
Three or-
Lover's Lane's been widened.
Dean Road from West Society Road to Route 1. Realign and widen Holmes Road west of Walnut Hill Road. Realign and widen Scott Road from Upper Patagonia to Route 1.
I guess, I mean, those were recommendations, but I don't foresee the town ever pursuing it. So I guess, I mean, in the spirit of, environmental protection, why would we go widen the road if we've managed for the last 40 years, short of an increase in traffic that's so significant that would warrant another east-west road to be widened for movement? I'm kind of thinking we don't recommend it.
I agree.
Okay, I agree with that.
You widen and straighten, you're begging for high-speed traffic.
Yeah, that's fair.
Why would we do that?
No.
So we could take those out and put in the one that we talked about with the 18-foot roads for traffic calming.
Yeah, I like that.
I mean, that's like a 180-degree shift from what we were practicing, if you will, right? To
Right. Okay, so we're gonna change that. We're gonna change all 4 of those, 5 of those, to change the regulations to encourage 18-foot road, or that same blurb as what we had in the other chapter.
Yep.
That's good.
Encourage
Okay.
scenic, what's the word?
Scenic byways.
Scenic roads.
Yeah.
We tried to get that program in, but all the neighbors were afraid of being prevented from cutting down a tree. 15 and 16, maybe eliminate.
Yep.
It's so nice traveling those roads.
Okay, so
should the scenic road item be of its own recommendation?
yeah, because it kind of would be both a state and oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I like
Now,
that.
now, should we be specific and specify? Because I mean, I still would say, going back to Grassy Hill Road. I know I don't know how many are familiar with. Several years back, there was a application by several residents to get a portion of Grassy Hill Road designated as a scenic road. Unfortunately, that failed through the process. But I think it would still be recommended. I mean,
I agree.
That's good.
should
Number
we list them though? Because I
Say
mean, I
again?
think the only two roads that I would probably think, I mean, maybe Walnut Hill, but certainly Whistletown and Grassy Hill, Holmes Road. But I don't know if any others would we'd be able to get them through. I mean, it's hard to say. Does anybody have any suggestions on that, or just leave it at that?
Do we want to specifically name roads, or do we want to just leave it as a general statement?
I would insert the word designated between of and scenic, but not encourage the adoption of designated scenic roads.
Yeah.
But I would be hesitant to put a road on there because we may not be thinking of all of them right now, and I would hate to leave one out. And then I would also not want to Norm's earlier statement, I wouldn't want to like panic a group of homeowners
That's
who do
fair.
not.
Right. No, I get it. All right, we'll just leave it general.
Number 17, recommend addressing resilience issues associated with flooded roadways, preventing flooding roads, improves resilience, reduces insurance costs for property owners, and prevents needing response of police and emergency personnel during a weather event. Road flooding mitigation road flooding mitigation improvements are necessary in the following areas. And then I just listed off a bunch of them that was a combination of ones that I think Michelle told me about, and in the hazard mitigation plan, they listed off a bunch.
Yep.
So those guys should probably be like A or B or sub bullets of 17.
Yeah, and you know what? If we kind of change a little bit the wording in the actual number 17 paragraph, then we can get in, well, it's addressed in emergency services too, but the roadway alterations in the Stantec study, which is where a lot of these came from, are for both emergency egress and flooding.
That's a good point.
So we can just kind of say that, and then we can either refer to the Stantec study, which will be in the appendix, or I can just copy paste the actual recommendations in there to describe these better, like Giant's Neck is Dell Lane and Edge Hill Road, it's like emergency access outside of those.
Yeah, there was a couple of places that I was wondering about, and it's the one road off East Patagonia that goes back to the plan back there.
Yeah, but
Hill Drive, and then there was another one over in Giant's Neck that I wasn't sure about whether or not, because there's one road that goes in there, and I was wondering, somebody had mentioned one time that it was either flooded or closed, and that whole, I don't know how many houses that are over there, but the whole area was kind of isolated.
Yeah, it describes in the Stantec study how the neighborhood south of the railroad corridor in Giant's Neck becomes isolated if that area near the railroad corridor floods, which
Right.
is prone to.
Right. So I called out the one on Hill Drive, and I didn't call out the one over on Giant's Neck.
Yeah, you did.
I
It's
did?
number 2.
Oh, it is number. Oh, I think. Okay.
I guess, are we missing any here that were identified in the study and that we should list, or should we reword this to say, go see the study?
The study has West Main Street, Giants Neck, Bush Hill Drive, Pine Grove, Crescent Beach, Hope Street, Black Point Road at Burnmap Road.
Okay.
Right.
Oh,
That's all of them here.
yeah,
Okay. So no change.
Yeah.
right.
Route 11.
Yeah. I just left that kind of in there, and I just said to be aware of it, and that as of 2020, it didn't appear likely that the Route 11 project would ever be completed as intended. So that I left as a recommendation.
I don't know if anybody has any comments on this. I mean, Route 11 came out of the regional transportation plan, so I don't think it will ever get built.
I don't think so either.
I'm okay with removing it.
Removing it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Take it out.
Go on.
Save some space. Okay, so then it's on the sidewalks and bicycling. That seemed to be a major theme from our open town hall meeting.
Here's where the bike plan.
Yep.
Prioritize and track sidewalk construction projects in key areas. I think that's just a general recommendation.
Yeah.
This plan again, it's hard to read. And again, formatting here, but
Prioritize and track bicycle safety improvements, including adding bicycle lanes and appropriate signage in key areas. Certain roadways may need to have the lanes narrowed, which will not only provide room for bicycle lanes, but will also act as traffic calming technique. Narrow roads have been proven to slow traffic, which benefits bicyclists and pedestrians alike. Everybody okay with that one?
Yep, definitely. Glad we struck the road widening earlier.
Right. And specifically, adding bike lanes. This one is definitely called out in the bike plan, the CCOG bike plan. They have the regional path going right up 156, and I think one version of it, they reroute people through Hope Street and then back down, but the Scenic one I think goes right through town. And my thought with 19 was to, like I said before, people who go through town in the middle of summer at like 30 miles an hour, they're doing it, it's kind of dangerous. So I feel like we might be able to do two things at the same time. I think the road is wide enough to get a full-on bike lane in both directions and have the parking, but it would require to have it restriped. And this might be an interesting place to put some artwork like a seashell or something on the bike path or whatever. I don't know. So that was 156. Provide bike lanes on both sides of the road from Flanders Four Corners to Niantic Main Street. This also refers back to that picture of the 161 as it goes by Gorton Pond around that one curve where there's really not significant room for a bike or pedestrian traffic. So I think that one is important, but that's a pretty hard problem to solve, apparently. given the layout of the residential area there and the pond. Okay, bicycle lanes, both sides of Route 1 from Flanders, Four Corners to Old Lyme. Widen the road where necessary. That came out of the bike plan. Provide Eastern Shoreline path bikeway and wayfinding signs at intervals along Route 156. Maybe we should move 23 and put it with 20. I think they're the same thing, are they? I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. All right. Maybe clean up the language or something or whatever. Or get rid of one of them. I didn't call it out as the Eastern Shoreline pathway, but that's what they call it in the report. There we go. Maybe say something like about the, I was going to say maybe make a comment about adding regionally specific artwork or something to, further get people's attention about the bike lanes. I don't know.
What did you say about that artwork? What would you call that?
Well, I was just regionally specific
Maybe in
artwork.
19.
What's that?
Maybe in 19. Because that would apply to kind of all of these specific
Yeah.
projects, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So don't add the artwork here.
Right.
And add it in and make a statement here that
Yeah, I think so.
uh,
We can go back and clean this up later, Gary, if we
Okay.
just have, if you want to just drop that in there and maybe I'll make a note. To clean that up later.
all right.
So
So
is everybody okay with all those?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think we only have like one more. Bicycle parking in public areas should be included in new projects to be made available throughout town. This could help alleviate parking issues at local beaches and attractions. This one came out of that same, the bike plan. And I also earlier, as we were talking about clean energy stuff, I thought that maybe we need to add a bullet somewhere in here or a recommendation to include charging stations or something in our transportation plan, or I don't.
That's a good idea.
It would probably go somewhere at the top when we talk about traffic calming, or somewhere else other than the biking and pedestrian.
So I made a note there. So we'd have to find a space to talk about charging stations.
Yeah. And I agree with the comment that said that the layout of this is not consistent with the rest of the document. So we'll have to work on that.
Yeah, that's an easy fix.
Yeah.
So really, it looks like we just got to figure out how we incorporate artwork in the charging station into these recommendations, and then format the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Good one. I know that one was a bear.
Yeah, that was fun. Except for
right.
Gary got to do a lot of the fun stuff with the mapping, so that was good.
So everybody's good with this for the most part?
Yes.
Yeah, looks good.
Sharing my screen, okay. Share. All right.
All right. I understand the time. I have been updating the table of contents that we were looking at earlier at the beginning of the meeting to just indicate where everything is. And if you all have the stamina for one more, we can take a look at municipal waste management. And then at our next meeting, we will only have the background, introduction, open space, economic development, and clean energy to approve. And the
You said
end.
only.
Well, we've got 18 chapters, and we're down to the last 3 or 4. So
Michelle, we would have background, open space, and
background is actually written, but it doesn't really require group discussion. If everyone could just review it, and then we can just signal okay or not okay at the next meeting.
okay.
That is complete. The introduction is not yet complete. Agricultural resources, the recommendations have been approved, but the section just has to get finalized. So then that would leave for our review open space. And I marked this all on the table of contents if you look in the shared drive. Open space, economic development, and if we want to take a final look at clean energy, knowing we got a pretty solid preview of it tonight. Also, I will have for the next meeting the education and outreach section, which, like the background section, does not include a ton of recommendations. It's more a summary of what we've discussed process-wise. And I will have all the appendix materials put together, which are things that we have already reviewed as a group. They're standalone documents that we don't need to approve.
Quite a bit of work left to do. All right.
All
Um,
the
Michelle,
solid waste management tonight.
a little bit of conflict with the DTC meeting on Thursday. I mean, I can I usually do the minutes for the DTC, but somebody else can do that, but so somebody else will have to take up my slack. So what do you
I
suggest?
totally get it. If you
Was
want to come, I totally get it. If you're able to join us from 6 to 7, then that's still great.
Whatever.
We're running out of days on the calendar.
Right. I'll definitely be here between 6 and 7, then I'll play it by ear, I guess. I can read the sections that we're going to be reviewing before Thursday's meeting. I think I'm pretty much done with my sections.
Can I pop into municipal waste management then?
Yep.
Get that one going. Just pull it up. Okay, our key facts, just kind of want to put some stats on how much trash we're picking up every week, how many tons go to the trash to energy plant. Do we, any information on revenue from recycling, or if it's on the increase or the decline, and what percentage of East Lyme's waste is currently recycled. We'll need that for a recommendation that comes later. We do have the information on solid waste per capita, which is 1,191.2 pounds. And that's been decreasing over the last 3 years, so that was good news. So the description goes through how much waste we have per capita, what waste we take, where it goes, trash to energy in Preston, and Willimantic waste recycling in Willimantic. Also talks about what we take at the transfer station, and that Connecticut general statutes require that certain items be recycled, but that we're having a problem with recycling contamination in our single stream, which is decreasing the value of the town's recyclables and causing potentially recyclable items to need to be discarded as trash. That is in a letter that was posted by Joe Bergaw on the East Lyme Town Hall website. So that is factual as of this year. This paragraph comes directly out of a summary of that letter and about how they're doing some inspections and refusing pickup if people are putting out contaminated recycling. And they're putting these stickers, they have 4,000 of them to go through the town about what is and is not allowed in the recycling. Some additional background about East Lyme being a member of SCIRA, which is 12 towns in southeastern Connecticut related to long-term solutions for municipal solid waste recycling and other issues. This is how we do town-wide shredding events and hazardous waste pickup. So there's some information about that here. I want to put a little bit more on the transfer station, but I'm waiting to hear back from Joe Bergaw because I want to specifically mention what happens to scrap metal there and brush. So info coming there. Recommendations. Engage in further public education about what can and cannot be replaced in the single stream recycling bins. Talking about creating a partnership with the local arts community for a campaign that could be executed through a variety of channels, including on bins, signage, mail, digitally, or other ways to be eye-catching and have an easy-to-understand way of communicating recycling rules to the public. I think something that needs to be included here, so I added it in this sentence, was to consider that especially during the summer, waste may not be going to the curb by residents, but by visitors to the town through home rentals or people who are passing by and utilizing our publicly available trash and recyclable bins. So when we're engaging in a campaign, we got to figure out something that can address that issue with visitors. Okay, to move forward on this one? Okay. This is a Wesleyan student recommendation: implement composting programs in East Lyme schools for purposes of both waste reduction and education. A composting program could also lead to the creation of educational or community gardens for students and or the public. This is a case study from the Wesleyan student recommendations about Mansfield's development of a school bin composting program, and they created a guide which is available on the state website through DEEP for other towns to implement the same thing. They received grant funding for it, so this kind of outlines that. Good to move forward? Okay. This is also a Wesleyan student recommendation: set a competitive townwide recycling target of 30% of all waste. I included this recommendation not knowing what our current percentage is, so I will let you know if any updates come out of this. But this outlines that we'd be looking to achieve this goal through educational programs like those listed above, waste reduction programs, i.e. compost, and continued support for region-wide hazardous materials and shredding events, and the possible expansion of allowable recyclables either through curbside pickup or the town's transfer station. And the case study here talks about West Hartford's 25% recycling percentage. Although they are also on the same POCD update cycle as us, so I can't find that this information still exists online, but it was online when Rosemary's students did the research. So we can include a link if necessary or just summarize. Okay to move forward? Okay. Further encourage composting by East Lyme residents through an enhanced educational program. There is a lot of education on the town website right now about home compost, but it's definitely more there for people who are looking versus going out and encouraging it proactively. So that's included there. Municipal curbside pickup, transfer station drop-off, or in partnership with an outside compost company. And there's a link to an example of a private compost company that services municipalities in Hartford and New Haven counties. So this is kind of a menu of potential ways to encourage composting, and it isn't meant as a check all the items off recommendation. It's all available options. Okay. The last one is implementation of sustainable CT certification action items that I have listed out below. And Sustainable CT has a lot of really detailed information that I chose to reference but not include directly about waste reduction, increased recycling, and food waste prevention. Joe Bergaw has not reviewed this yet. Much of it came directly from materials that his office has already created, so I'm hoping that we don't have an issue, but just to be upfront with you, that's what the status is there.
Hey, I was wondering if we might ask Joe, probably get the answer, the negative answer, but I always thought that we might investigate privatization of the trash pickup.
Yeah.
A lot of towns do it, and they like it. It would have to, obviously, with all the mechanics, everything you've just mentioned, we'd have to be working together, public-private effort. But as far as physical pickup, the cost of trucks, this and that, employees, and I think it ought to be looked into.
I don't
Good
disagree.
point.
Oh, you can mention it.
Maybe leave it as a recommendation to say consider.
The kickback, the first kickback you're going to get is, oh, we're going to fire our town employees. Well, we can encourage and recommend, or maybe even require, that the private company use as many as our existing employees as possible.
Yeah.
But it should be looked into, I think.
All right. I am happy to add that. I sent it to him today. So I can make some edits and resend, or just let him know that we're going to include it when he replies, or he can see it when we send out the draft to town staff. The other two things that we discussed tonight that didn't make it into this draft, because I completed the draft this afternoon, was about covered dumpsters. So I do want to, and trash receptacles. So I do want to make sure that's included in this section as well. And public art for garbage cans. So it's mentioned in the recycling campaign, but I think that we could stick it in another recommendation about making the garbage cans more noticeable and attractive through public art to discourage litter.
Like it. Good idea.
So I'll add those if you're comfortable with them.
You don't look bad enough already?
I want them all to look like the ones at Dad's restaurant.
I don't know.
The animals ones, it's a big elephant head and the
Oh.
lion.
Oh, you're not talking about the ones you put out in the street, the individual people. You're talking
No,
about.
I'm talking about like the ones at the beach and
Okay, all right.
yeah,
I thought you
those
were talking
just
about the ones you
empty
put out.
white
All right.
containers.
All
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
I'm good with it.
All right.
Good.
Hopping back to the agenda just as a sanity check here. Any correspondence from town staff, Gary? Old business B?
From me, no, not specific. I'm just working, trying to get this done.
Okay, so
Have you heard
next,
anything back from the finance people yet?
No, were you?
I have emailed them several times and I have not gotten any response other than to say we don't have time. And then I asked about whether or not they would have time on Friday, and that was last Friday. And I just didn't know how far I should push it. If you are currently working on the economic stuff, there is some correspondence with them that she said that she was going to look into it. So
Okay. I'll follow up with Anna tomorrow.
that's a good lead into the last agenda item here, which is next steps. So in the active files folder, there is a file titled New POCD Table of Contents. And that is complete as of tonight with the status of each section. So I'm hoping that's a good one to keep us on track. If everybody could take a look at background, and then we'll have the open space, economic development, and if we want to take another look at clean energy or not, and then the implementation section. So there's a lot to do in a few days, but we have made a lot of progress in the last few weeks. So I know everyone has been really giving an extraordinary amount of time due to our circumstances, and I know that it's been a stretch, and I appreciate it a lot. So we meet on Thursday, and then the goal is to have everything ready to be compiled Friday. Okay.
And we do have some wiggle room, obviously. I did talk to Sandy, so I mean, I can get her the electronic copy by the 4th, so she can get it out to her members. And she's just sending it out. They're going to just acknowledge the fact that they're receiving it, and then they have their time to review.
The Planning Commission needs it on the 4th too.
Yes. So we'll coordinate that.
Yeah. Good thing we know those people.
when is our regular planning meeting?
The 4th. So, and we have to vote to send it to the board on the 4th, yeah?
I would.
Yeah.
Not that big of a deal. But.
No, I mean, the Planning Commission has to vote to send it to the Board of Selectmen.
I think so.
Yeah, or get a consensus. You don't have to vote on it, but you're going to send it, refer it to them. They get their 60-day review. So we'll
Got it.
take a motion to forward on and wait to hear back from them.
Don't we have a special meeting of the Planning Commission on the 27th?
7th, next Monday.
Correct. And that's just to discuss the subdivision stuff there. So we won't really discuss POCD at that meeting.
On the 27th?
Unless you want to.
I thought that was a public.
Oh, it doesn't matter. It's past the due date. Never mind. I'm getting myself confused. Looking at
Oh, okay. I thought that was a public meeting for one of the applications.
yes.
Okay.
27th is.
Would anyone like to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Could I ask one again to get access to the draft documents? I was hoping to have a copy for this meeting, but I never got one. So
Yes, I got your email late today. Jen was out sick, so I would have had her send all that stuff over to you. I'll have her do that first thing in the morning, and hopefully
appreciate it.
have hard copies or at least electronic copies. I'll have they may be in PDF format.
PDF is fine. You have my email address, right, Gary?
Why don't I take it just in case? But I should.
Doug, D-O-U-G, @lawyer.com.
Okay. Great. All right. I will let her know.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Thursday. Good night.
Bye. Thank you.
How do I stop this thing?
I'm